The distress call echoed through the void, bouncing from relay to relay, spreading across hundreds of star systems. It was a desperate cry, a plea for salvation. The message was simple, translated into every known tongue: help us. We are dying. The swarm is endless. We cannot hold any longer. On the frozen outpost of Yereth Prime, alien soldiers huddled in silence as they listened to the repeating signal. Their eyes, wide and filled with fear, reflected the holographic image of burning worlds. Planet after planet was falling to the swarm, millions of creatures spilling from the dark, consuming everything in their path. The Galactic Council had already lost 6 systems in only 2 cycles. The swarm was unstoppable. And yet, there was one mistake. One terrible mistake. When the call for help was coded and broadcast, it reached beyond the known borders of the Council. It reached somewhere it was never meant to. Somewhere forgotten. Somewhere whispered about only in warnings. It reached Earth. The officers of Yereth Prime didn't realize this yet. They were too busy arguing, their voices sharp with panic. "No one will answer," hissed one scaled officer. "Why waste our last moments on hope?" But the younger ones clung to it, shaking their heads. Someone must answer. Someone has to. Hours later, in the darkness of deep space, a forgotten relay shuddered awake. Its lights blinked for the first time in centuries. Old human satellites, silent watchers of the void, stirred as the alien signal touched them. Protocols written long ago began to activate. The message was received, processed, and forwarded into the heart of Earth. Humanity heard the call. The aliens had no idea what they had done. To them, humans were a rumor, an echo of ancient wars. Some believed they had destroyed themselves long ago. Others whispered that humans had fled beyond the rim, unwilling to deal with the galaxy's politics. No one truly knew. The records were unclear, lost in the chaos of time. But one word always remained whenever humans were mentioned: Deathworlders. Across the galaxy, Deathworld was a curse. It meant a place too hostile for normal life, a place where only the strongest could survive. Earth was the most infamous of them all. Storms, predators, diseases, volcanoes, everything about that world was cruel. Yet somehow, humanity had thrived there. Not just thrived, they had once dominated the stars. When the distress call reached Earth, humanity did not hesitate. The first response came not in words, but in movement. Fleets stirred in hidden docks. Warships, long kept silent, powered up for the first time in generations. Their hulls were dark and scarred, but their cores burned with deadly light. Meanwhile, back on Yereth Prime, the alien officers were losing hope. Days had passed, and no help had come. The swarm was moving closer. Already, its shadows were visible in the night sky, black rivers of endless teeth and wings. The youngest soldiers trembled as the ground itself began to shake from distant bombardments. Then it happened. A signal cut across every frequency, sharp and commanding. The voice was strange, harsh compared to the soft tones of the council races. But it was clear. It was human. Distress signal received. Stand by. Reinforcements inbound. The aliens froze. Some didn't believe it. Others whispered in terror. No, not them. Anyone but them. Yet above Yereth Prime, a ripple spread across the stars. A ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It was larger than anything the aliens had seen in centuries, its silhouette sharp like a blade, its hull black as if carved from shadow. The moment it appeared, the sky seemed to bend around it, the very void trembling. The swarm paused. For the first time, the endless creatures hesitated, as if some primal instinct warned them. The human warship drifted forward in silence. Then its weapons came alive. Lances of fire cut through the darkness. Swarm ships, thousands of them, vanished in bursts of light. Whole clusters of the creatures burned before they could even react. The battlefield lit up as if a star had been born in orbit. On the surface, the alien soldiers gasped. Their despair turned into stunned silence. The impossible was happening. Someone was fighting back. But it was not just someone. It was humanity. And humanity had returned to the galaxy. The battlefield above Yereth Prime burned like a second sun. The human warship moved with calm precision, a predator among insects. Each blast tore apart dozens of swarm vessels. Creatures that once believed themselves unstoppable were now being cut down like grass before fire. On the surface, alien soldiers watched with wide eyes. Some cheered, their voices trembling with relief. Others stood in silent awe, unable to believe what they were witnessing. For weeks, they had only seen defeat, only heard cries of dying worlds. But now, one ship, just one, was turning the tide. The swarm regrouped. Black clouds of wings and ships surged forward, shrieking across the void. Their combined mass blotted out stars. The aliens below trembled, whispering prayers. They had seen what the swarm did when it was angry. Whole moons devoured. Fortresses shredded. Armies swallowed alive. Not even fleets of the Council had managed to slow it. But the human ship did not move back. Its engines flared, pushing it straight into the storm. Its weapons roared again, brighter, faster, deadlier. Every strike was perfect, aimed with ruthless precision. Massive beams cut holes through the swarm. Rail cannons fired, sending molten shards through clusters of creatures. Missiles screamed, breaking into hundreds of smaller warheads that hunted their targets without mercy. It was not a battle. It was an execution. On the ground, Commander Sereth, an officer of Yereth Prime, gripped his communicator with shaking claws. "Identify yourselves," he demanded. "This system belongs to the Galactic Council. State your allegiance." There was silence at first. Only the thunder of war filled the comms. Then, finally, a voice answered. Cold. "Human. We are answering your call. You asked for help. Humanity has answered." The aliens fell silent. The word spread like fire among them, humanity. Some whispered it with hope, others with terror. Old stories rushed back to life, tales told by grandparents about a species too dangerous, too violent, too cunning to be trusted. But in this moment, no one could deny the truth. Humanity was saving them. Minutes turned into hours. The battle raged on. The swarm lost thousands, then tens of thousands. Each time more tried to surround the human ship, its defenses burned them away. Its shields flashed with impacts but never faltered. It fought alone, yet it fought as if it carried the power of 100 fleets. When dawn came to Yereth Prime, the sky above was clear. The swarm was gone. Only drifting wreckage remained. The impossible had happened. For the first time in this war, the swarm had been defeated. Cheers erupted in the trenches. Soldiers shouted and wept. Some dropped their weapons, falling to their knees in gratitude. For the first time in weeks, they believed they might live to see tomorrow. But Commander Sereth did not cheer. His eyes stayed on the human warship hanging in orbit, dark and silent now that the battle was over. Something about it unsettled him. "Send a signal," he ordered quietly. "Invite them to land. We must speak with these humans." The message went out. For long minutes, there was no response. Then, slowly, the great ship descended. It cut through the clouds like a shadow, blotting out the sun as it lowered toward the military base. Dust and fire swirled beneath it. The ground shook as it landed, its massive frame dwarfing every structure around it. The aliens gathered, waiting. Soldiers held their breath. Scientists whispered in fear. Old stories said humans were monsters, Deathworlders, killers who laughed at pain and destruction. If that was true, what would they do now? A ramp extended. Smoke poured from the edges. Figures appeared in the haze, tall and armored. Their steps were heavy, their presence overwhelming. The first human removed his helmet. His face was scarred, his eyes cold and sharp like blades. He looked at the crowd without fear, without hesitation. His voice cut through the silence. "You called. We came. But understand this, Where humanity goes, war follows. If you wish us to fight, you must accept the cost. The aliens murmured, confused and afraid. Some thought the human was warning them. Others feared it was a threat. Commander Sereth stepped forward. His claws shook, but his voice was steady. We welcome you. The Council will reward you for this victory. You saved us from extinction. Whatever you require, it shall be given. The humans smiled, but it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just scented more prey. We require nothing, except more enemies. The crowd froze. Far above the planet, hidden satellites tracked the human ship. They whispered to each other in silent code, awakening protocols that had been buried for thousands of years. The galaxy had not seen humanity in ages. But now they were back. And nothing would ever be the same. The night after the battle was uneasy. Yareth Prime's skies were clear, yet no one slept. The alien soldiers sat in silence, staring upward where the human warship drifted like a black moon. Even in stillness, the ship felt alive, like a predator watching, waiting. Inside the base, Commander Sereth tried to keep his troops calm, but whispers spread faster than orders. They came from a death world, one muttered. They kill without fear. Another shivered. I heard they once fought the Council itself, long ago, and almost won. The stories grew darker. Some swore that humans drank the blood of their enemies. Others claimed their bones were unbreakable, their rage endless. Fear began to mix with gratitude, until no one knew what to feel. At dawn, the humans requested a meeting. Not asked, requested. Their message was short, sharp, impossible to ignore. Send your leaders. We will speak. The Council sent no one. Yareth Prime was too far from the core. Instead, Sereth was ordered to act as representative until official envoys could arrive. The commander's scales itched with unease, but he obeyed. The humans entered the council chamber with heavy boots. Their armor gleamed faintly, scratched from battle but unbroken. At their head was the scarred man who had spoken before. His name, he revealed, was Captain Rourke. Your enemy is not the swarm, Rourke said, his voice steady, cold. Your enemy is weakness. You built a council that debates while worlds burn. You wait for votes while your soldiers die. Humanity does not wait. Humanity acts. The words cut deep. Sereth wanted to protest, to defend the council, but the images of burning systems silenced him. He could not deny the truth. Rourke leaned forward. His eyes pierced through the commander. You called for help. You summoned humanity. Now you must decide. Do you want us to fight at your side, or shall we fight this war our way? Silence filled the chamber. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. They needed humanity, that was certain. The swarm was too powerful. But if they accepted, if they gave humans freedom to fight in their way, what price would they pay later? Before Sereth could answer, alarms screamed. The swarm had returned. This time, it was not a single fleet. It was an armada, stretching across the void. Tens of thousands of ships. The sky above Yareth Prime darkened as if night had fallen again. Panic erupted. Officers shouted, scrambling for orders. Soldiers grabbed weapons with trembling hands. Many believed it was the end. No single ship, not even the human one, could face such a tide. But Captain Rourke did not move. He watched the holographic map calmly, as if this was expected. Good, he murmured. Finally, a real fight. He turned to Sereth, his scarred face lit by the red glow of alarms. Tell your people to stay out of the skies. This is humanity's war now. Sereth froze. What do you mean? You can't. There are too many. Rourke's smile was grim. You still don't understand. Numbers don't matter. Not against us. Moments later, the human ship rose again, breaking through the clouds like a shadowed titan. Its engines roared, shaking the ground. Every alien on Yareth Prime stopped to watch as it climbed toward the swarm. The armada closed in, black waves of living ships, wings, and claws. They blotted out the stars, screaming through the void. The human warship charged. Its first strike split the heavens. A beam brighter than dawn tore through the swarm, leaving a trail of burning wreckage. Then came the missiles, thousands of them, erupting into storms of fire. Whole sections of the armada vanished in explosions that lit up the skies. But the swarm was vast. For every ship destroyed, 100 more pressed forward. They swarmed the human vessel, covering it like a tide of insects on a beast. Their claws tore at its shields, their cannons pounded its armor. For the first time, the human ship seemed to stagger. The aliens on the surface gasped in horror. "They can't win," one cried. "Not against this." But inside the human ship, Captain Rourke only leaned forward. His voice was calm, steady, like steel. "Release the payload." A silence fell. Then the ship's core ignited. From its belly, a storm unleashed, a weapon the aliens had never seen before. Dozens of war drones spilled out, each one faster, deadlier than any swarm beast. They cut through the enemy like blades, carving a path in perfect coordination. They hunted in silence, their weapons precise and merciless. The swarm screamed. Whole sections broke apart. Their numbers collapsed under the relentless assault. From below, Yareth Prime's soldiers watched the sky turn into fire. What had seemed hopeless minutes ago now looked like Judgment Day, but not for them. For the swarm. Hours passed. When the smoke cleared, the stars returned. The armada was gone. Only burning fragments drifted in silence. The human ship hovered alone, its hull scorched, its shields dim, but still standing. On the ground, Sereth trembled. He had seen many wars, but nothing like this. The humans had fought against impossible odds. And won. Yet fear gnawed at him. If humanity could destroy the swarm so easily, what could they do to the Council itself? Above, Captain Rourke's ship turned slowly, its shadow falling across Yareth Prime like the wings of a predator. His words echoed in Sereth's mind. Where humanity goes, war follows. The battlefield was silent, but the silence felt wrong. Wreckage drifted in orbit, the remains of the swarm armada glowing like embers in the night. Yareth Prime's skies were clear again, yet no one cheered. The alien soldiers only stared upward at the lone human ship, fear and awe mixing inside their eyes. Commander Sereth stood on the command platform, his claws tightening around the railing. He had seen the swarm break fleets, crush worlds, erase entire civilizations. Yet humanity had faced them with one ship, and won. The question that haunted him now was simple. What happens when that power turns toward the Council? Inside the human vessel, Captain Rourke sat in silence. His officers moved with machine-like precision, no celebration, no relief, only focus. They had fought as though the battle had been practice, not survival. Rourke's gaze stayed on the tactical screen, where faint swarm signals flickered at the edge of detection. He knew what the aliens below did not. This was only the beginning. The swarm was vast, endless. The Council thought in terms of fleets and borders. Humanity thought in terms of extinction. The humans were not here to help. They were here to end the war, on their terms. That night, a message reached the surface. It was short, delivered in the same cold, sharp tone as before. Prepare for ground landing. We require resources. Fuel, metals, medical supplies. You will provide them. There was no negotiation. No request. Only a command. Sereth gathered his officers. Fear filled the room. If we give them everything, one said, we will be left defenseless. If we refuse, they may destroy us. Another leaned close, whispering, what if the old stories are true? What if they mean to conquer the Council, not save it? The arguments rose louder, but Sereth silenced them. We have no choice. The humans saved us. If they ask, we give. To refuse would be suicide. Supplies were gathered. Convoys rolled to the landing zone. Under the shadow of the human ship, the aliens delivered fuel, ammunition, metals, food. Human soldiers took the crates in silence, their armored forms moving with cold efficiency. They spoke little, their faces hidden behind helmets, their weapons always within reach. To the aliens, they seemed less like allies and more like executioners. Later, Sareth was invited aboard the human vessel. The invitation was unexpected, but he could not refuse. The ramp swallowed him in darkness, and soon he stood inside the belly of the warship. The interior was unlike anything he had seen. Cold steel, sharp lights, walls filled with weapons and machines. It felt less like a ship and more like a beast's skeleton, alive and waiting to strike. Captain Rourke met him in the command chamber. His scarred face was lit by the glow of star maps. He gestured, and the map expanded, showing not just the swarm, but the entire galaxy. "You think this war is about your worlds," Rourke said. "It is not. The swarm will not stop until every star is empty. The Council cannot stop them. But humanity can." Sareth swallowed hard. "And what will humanity demand in return?" Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Survival. Nothing more. But survival has a cost. Are your people willing to pay it?" Before Sareth could answer, alarms echoed through the human vessel. Red lights flashed across the walls. Officers moved swiftly, their voices sharp. Rourke's expression hardened. "Another swarm fleet?" Sareth asked, his voice trembling. Rourke shook his head. "No. Something else." The screen shifted, showing a cluster of ships entering the system. Their shapes were familiar, not swarm, but council. The insignias of the Galactic Council flickered across their hulls. Sareth's chest tightened. The Council sent reinforcements at last. But Rourke's cold smile froze him in place. "No. They sent spies." The Council ships did not hail Yareth Prime. Instead, they spread into formation, scanning, recording. Their weapons were armed, not at the swarm, but directed toward the human vessel. The truth struck Sareth like a blade. The Council was not here to help. They were here to watch, to measure the humans, to decide if this new power was more dangerous than the swarm itself. The chamber grew tense. Human officers prepared weapons, silent and precise. Rourke gave no order to fire, but the ship's cannons powered up, glowing faintly in the dark. Sareth's voice broke the silence. "You cannot fight the Council and the swarm at the same time." Rourke turned toward him, his expression unreadable. "We will fight anyone who stands in our way." Outside, the void shimmered with tension. Council fleets on one side, humanity's warship on the other, and Yareth Prime caught between them. For the first time, Sareth realized the truth. Humanity had not returned as saviors. They had returned as the galaxy's most dangerous players. The void was heavy with silence. The Council fleet and the human warship faced each other across the skies of Yareth Prime, weapons armed, tension sharp enough to break stars. Below, the alien soldiers held their breath, afraid to move, afraid to even whisper. One wrong spark could ignite a war greater than the swarm itself. Commander Sareth stood at the human captain's side, his scales trembling. He knew the Council well. They were cautious, calculating, always watching. But this time, their fear had driven them too far. They saw not allies, but a threat. Captain Rourke did not flinch. His voice was calm, even amused. "So the Council comes to measure us," he said softly. "Let them measure. They will learn what it means to summon humanity." On the Council flagship, Admiral Kether watched the human ship with narrowed eyes. His officers whispered about the destruction of the swarm armada, about the impossible power of one vessel. Kether silenced them with a growl. "Power without control is danger. These humans must be contained before they spread chaos through the stars." Orders rippled through the Council fleet. Their weapons remained locked on the humans, but they did not fire. Not yet. Then the humans made their move. A single transmission cut across every channel. Rourke's voice filled the Council ships, deep and commanding. You called for help. We answered. And in answering, we saved a world you abandoned. If you see us as threat, then aim your cannons and test your courage. But know this, if you fire upon humanity, there will be no council left to rule. The words spread like fire. Even on Yereth Prime, soldiers gasped. It was not diplomacy. It was a challenge. Admiral Kether clenched his jaw. His pride burned, but his instincts screamed caution. He had seen the recordings of the battle. He had seen thousands of swarm ships torn apart in minutes. If humans could do that with one ship, what would happen if they had more? Still, he would not retreat. Instead, he sent his message back, cold and sharp. The Council does not take orders from Deathworlders. We will decide how this war is fought. Inside the human vessel, Rourke's officers waited for the order to fire. But the captain did not give it. His eyes stayed on the map, where swarm signals flickered again. Another fleet was moving, larger than before. He smiled grimly. The swarm will force their decision soon enough. And he was right. Only hours later, the horizon of space darkened once more. The swarm returned, not in a fleet, but in a tide so vast it drowned the stars. Millions of creatures. Billions. A living sea of wings and claws, stretching farther than sensors could measure. This was no attack. It was extermination. Yereth Prime's soldiers fell to their knees in despair. The council officers froze, their faces pale. Even Admiral Kether, hardened by decades of command, felt his stomach twist. No fleet in history could withstand such numbers. Only Rourke remained steady. His voice cut through the fear. Now you see. The swarm does not care for your council, your borders, or your pride. They will devour everything. Unless humanity stops them. The council ships hesitated. Their cannons, once aimed at the humans, turned toward the swarm. For the first time, council and human weapons pointed in the same direction. Rourke stood tall, his presence like iron. Fight with us, or stay out of our way. But understand this, we will not retreat. The swarm struck. The sky exploded in chaos. Millions of creatures crashed against the council fleet, tearing into ships like metal was paper. Screams filled the comms as vessels broke apart, their fragments swallowed into the endless tide. But when the swarm reached the human warship, the battle changed. The ship unleashed its full fury. Its cannons fired without pause, its drones swarmed out again in perfect formation, cutting through enemies like lightning. The ship moved like a predator among prey, every strike deadly, every motion precise. For the first time, the council fleet witnessed what Sereth had already seen, the true nature of humanity. They were not soldiers. They were not saviors. They were hunters. Council ships rallied behind the human vessel. Together, they pushed forward, carving a path through the swarm. The humans took the lead, breaking enemy lines again and again, dragging the council into victory. Hours stretched into a blur of fire and screams. At last, when the sun of Yereth Prime rose again, the swarm was broken. Their endless tide retreated, leaving wreckage scattered across the system. The survivors cheered, but the cheers were hollow. Too many had died. Too much had been lost. And one truth now burned brighter than the stars. Without humanity, there would be no survival. On the bridge of the human warship, Rourke looked across the battlefield. His eyes were hard, his voice quiet but certain. The swarm will not stop. This was only the beginning. If the Council wishes to live, they will follow humanity's lead. If not, they will die. Admiral Kether heard those words. He felt the weight of them settle on his chest. And in that moment, he understood. The galaxy was no longer ruled by the Council. It was ruled by the Deathworlders. The battle was over, but the system did not feel like victory. The wreckage of thousands of Council ships drifted in silence, burning slowly as they fell toward Yereth Prime. The swarm was broken, yet everyone knew it was not destroyed. It would return. It always returned. On the surface, alien soldiers cheered weakly, their voices filled more with relief than triumph. They had seen the impossible twice now, humanity standing against the tide and living. To them, the humans were both salvation and nightmare. Commander Sereth stood on the command balcony, his claws gripping the railing. He had watched the Council fleet bleed, watched them falter while the humans pressed forward like predators. He understood now what Rourke had meant. Humanity did not fight for defense. Humanity fought to win. Above, the human warship hung in orbit, silent and dark for hours. Many wondered if it had suffered too much damage, if it would ever fight again. But when its engines flared back to life, a shiver ran through every soldier on Yareth Prime. The Deathworlders were still ready. A message came. It was not a request. Not even a warning. Just words, cold and final. Prepare your leaders. We march for war. The Council survivors gathered in emergency session aboard their flagship. Admiral Kether, weary and scarred, faced the other commanders. His voice was sharp. We cannot allow humanity to dictate our war. If they rise unchecked, the swarm may not be our only enemy. But fear ran through the chamber. They had all seen what humanity could do. To defy them now felt like suicide. One captain whispered, "Perhaps we should follow their lead. With them, we might survive." Kether slammed his fist on the table. "And when the swarm is gone, do you think the humans will simply leave? No. They will rule." His words spread like poison. Yet none of them dared act. None except Sereth. For Sereth had been invited again. Captain Rourke wanted him aboard. The commander entered the human ship with heavy steps. The corridors hummed with energy, alive with power. Soldiers in black armor stood like statues, their eyes cold behind their visors. Every step reminded him of the truth. He was walking inside the heart of a predator. Rourke waited in the command chamber, star maps floating around him. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with purpose. "The swarm is not finished," he said. "It will gather again, stronger. We cannot wait for them to strike. We must carry the war to their hives. We must burn them out of the galaxy." Sereth's throat tightened. "You speak as if the Council will follow you. They will not. They fear you more than the swarm." Rourke stepped closer. His scarred face was inches away. "Then let them fear. Fear is better than extinction." The commander's chest ached. He wanted to argue, to warn, but the words would not come. Deep inside, he knew the humans were right. Waiting would only bring death. The swarm had to be hunted. Yet the cost of letting humans lead terrified him even more. "Why did you answer the call?" Sereth whispered. "Why return after so long? Why now?" For the first time, Rourke's expression softened, but only slightly. "Because we remembered. Humanity remembers every war, every betrayal, every death. We stayed silent because the galaxy wanted peace built on weakness. But weakness invites predators. And we are tired of watching." His words were not just truth. They were a warning. That night, the humans moved. Their warship did not rest. Its drones gathered wreckage, harvesting metal and fuel from the battlefield. Its engines burned brighter. The ship was preparing for something greater. The Council watched in silence. They argued, they debated, but none dared fire. The humans had become too dangerous. Too necessary. Then came the signal. Sensors across Yareth Prime screamed. At the edge of the system, a shadow appeared. It was not the swarm. It was something larger. Older. A colossal vessel broke into real space, dwarfing even the human warship. Its hull was black, its shape jagged, almost alive. Council officers whispered in terror. A hive mother. The swarm had sent one of its queens. The sky shook as the creature ship opened, releasing rivers of smaller swarm beasts. They poured into the system in endless waves, more than anyone had ever seen. Panic tore through Yareth Prime. Soldiers screamed, officers begged for orders. The council fleet was too broken to fight. The world would fall. But the humans did not hesitate. Captain Rourke's ship turned, its weapons igniting with deadly light. His voice cut through every channel, sharp as a blade. "This is the war you summoned us for. Stand aside and watch." The first shots roared. Fire brighter than dawn tore into the Queen's body. The ground shook. The sky burned. Humanity had chosen its battlefield. And the galaxy could only watch. The sky above Yereth Prime became fire. The Swarm Queen's colossal vessel loomed like a mountain in space, vomiting endless rivers of creatures. Billions poured out, blackening the stars. Their screeches echoed across comms, a chorus of hunger that froze every alien heart with terror. On the surface, panic spread. Soldiers dropped weapons, officers shouted over each other. Even the council fleet, battered and broken, began to retreat. "We cannot fight this," Admiral Kether muttered, his voice shaking. "No fleet in the galaxy can fight this." But one ship did not retreat. The human warship rose, engines burning like suns. It cut through the darkness with grim silence, its hull scarred but unbroken. Drones swarmed out from its belly again, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands, black machines that moved like a school of predators, weaving perfectly through the swarm tide. In the command chamber, Captain Rourke stood with his hands behind his back, his face lit by the glow of the Queen's massive form. His officers moved swiftly, no hesitation, no fear. "This is the heart," Rourke said softly. "Destroy the Queen, and the swarm breaks." The ship surged forward. The battle exploded. The Queen's defenses unleashed firestorms, organic cannons spitting molten plasma, wings of armored beasts slamming into the human vessel. The impact rattled space itself, the shockwaves visible from the planet below. But humanity did not falter. The warship spun like a predator striking prey, its weapons screaming in unison. Lances of energy cut through the swarm, missiles split into hundreds of shards, rail cannons tore holes in living armor. The drones carved paths through the enemy, relentless, merciless. Still, the swarm was endless. They crashed against the human ship like waves against rock. Shields flared, hull groaned. For the first time, sparks rained inside the command chamber. Warnings lit the screens. Even the humans began to bleed. On Yereth Prime, Commander Sereth watched in horror. "They cannot last," he whispered. "Not against that." Yet deep inside, another thought haunted him. If they win, nothing will ever stop them. Back in orbit, the human ship broke formation, diving straight toward the Queen. The maneuver was insane, suicidal. Council officers watching gasped. "They mean to ram it." But Rourke's voice was calm. "Arm the Nova Corps." Every human officer stiffened. One repeated the order, voice low. "The Nova Corps, confirmed." A deep hum shook the ship, growing louder and louder until even the swarm seemed to hesitate. At the heart of the warship, an ancient weapon awoke. Energy built, brighter than any star, burning with the fury of Earth itself. Seretha's comms crackled, Rourke's voice filling every channel. "You called for help. You summoned Deathworlders. Now watch how humanity answers." The warship plunged into the swarm, tearing through beasts and ships alike. Drones sacrificed themselves, opening the path. Cannons fired until their barrels melted. And then, the Nova Corps fired. The explosion was not a blast. It was a sunrise. Light brighter than creation tore across the void, swallowing the Queen, the swarm, the stars themselves. From Yereth Prime, it looked as if a second sun had been born in orbit. The shockwave thundered across space, shredding swarm ships by the millions, vaporizing them in an instant. The Queen screamed, an echo that rattled minds, split the air, and then went silent. Her colossal body cracked apart, split into burning fragments that tumbled into the void. When the light faded, only wreckage remained. The swarm was gone. The Queen was gone. The galaxy's nightmare had ended. But the human ship was gone too. Silence filled every calm. Soldiers wept, some in grief, some in relief. On the Council flagship, Admiral Kether whispered. Perhaps, the Deathworlders have sacrificed themselves. Then, slowly, impossibly, a shadow moved through the smoke. The human warship emerged, battered, broken, but alive. Its hull glowed red from the heat of its weapon, scars cut deep across its frame, but its engine still burned. Humanity had survived its own weapon. Cheers erupted across Yareth Prime, across the Council fleet, across every listening outpost. The swarm was broken. The war was turning. Hope, for the first time in decades, was real. But Commander Sereth did not cheer. He watched the human ship with cold eyes. For he knew the truth. Humanity had shown the galaxy two things: their strength, and their willingness to burn everything to win. The Council would rebuild. The swarm would return, someday. But when that day came, Sereth knew one truth above all others. The galaxy's future no longer belonged to the Council. It belonged to the Deathworlders. And nothing would ever take it from them again.